Captain Veltara stared at the glowing displays before her with all four of her blue-scaled arms, working different control panels. The readings made no sense. Something was out there in the empty space between stars, something that should not exist. Her ship, the Harmony's Rest, had been patrolling this quiet sector of space for months. Without finding anything more interesting than a few small asteroids, the Nexary captain had served in the Galactic Council fleet for over 3 centuries. In all that time, she had never seen sensor readings like these. The energy signature was completely unknown to their vast databases. Every known species in the galaxy had been cataloged, their technology studied and understood. But this was different. "Commander Quindel, you need to see this immediately," she called across the bridge. Her second in command was a Zephyrian, one of the tall crystalline beings whose bodies caught and reflected light in beautiful patterns. Quindel moved with fluid grace, his translucent form shimmering as he approached her station. His species communicated mainly through harmonic vibrations that created music in the air, but he had learned to speak the common galactic language for his duties. "What have you discovered, Captain?" His voice carried the musical quality of his people. Veltara pointed at the main viewing screen where a dark shape hung motionless against the backdrop of distant stars. At first glance, it looked like a piece of space debris, but the sensors told a different story. The object was clearly artificial, clearly a spacecraft, but its design was unlike anything in their records, where Galactic Council ships were built. With smooth, flowing lines that curved like living things, this vessel was all harsh angles and straight edges. It looked aggressive, even threatening. Dark metal plates covered its hull in overlapping layers. Scorch marks and deep gouges scarred its surface, evidence of battles fought in the darkness of space. "By the ancient codes," Quindel whispered, his harmonic voice creating worried undertones. "What manner of vessel is this?" Chief Science Officer Morden, a 6-limbed being from the peaceful Corvin worlds, looked up from his scanning equipment with confusion written across his broad face. "Captain, our sensors are having difficulty penetrating the hull. Materials are completely unknown to us. They appear to be some kind of dense metal alloy, layered in a pattern that suggests it was designed to absorb and deflect massive impacts." Veltara felt her mandibles clicking together nervously, an involuntary response when her species encountered something potentially dangerous. The clicking sound echoed in the quiet bridge as her crew worked at their stations, trying to make sense of what they had found. What kind of species builds ships to withstand massive impacts? She wondered aloud. The question hung in the air like a dark cloud. In the current era of galactic peace, warfare had been unknown for thousands of years. The various species of the Galactic Council had learned to cooperate, to share resources, to solve conflicts through discussion and compromise. Military technology had been abandoned so long ago that most young beings had never seen a weapon outside of museums. Navigation Officer Trelanara, whose people were known for their exceptional spatial awareness, spoke up from her station. "Captain, the vessel appears to be drifting without power. The design suggests it once had massive engines. The thrust chambers are larger than anything we use, even on our biggest cargo haulers." "Run a full spectrum analysis," Veltara ordered. "Want to know everything about that ship? Materials, energy signatures, anything that might tell us who built it and where they came from." As her crew worked, the captain studied the strange vessel more carefully. The more she looked, the more disturbing it became. Every line of the ship spoke of violence and conflict. The hull was thick and armored. What appeared to be weapon ports dotted its surface, though they were closed and dark. The entire design seemed focused on one purpose: fighting. Captain Morden called out, his voice filled with wonder and concern. "The metal composition is extraordinary. These alloys are incredibly dense and strong. Our computers estimate this. Hull could withstand direct hits from asteroids traveling at high speed. What kind of environment would require such protection?" "Perhaps they come from a system with dangerous space debris," suggested Quindel, though his harmonics carried doubt. Veltara was not convinced. The damage patterns on the hull were too regular, too focused. These were not random impacts from space rocks. They looked like the result of deliberate attacks, weapons fire, explosions. But that was impossible. No civilized species had developed such weapons in millennia. "Keep scanning," she ordered, "and maintain our distance. We don't know if that ship is truly powerless or just dormant." Tactical Officer Renter, a young Heliosan whose golden skin could change color with his emotions, looked up from his station. With concern, his skin had shifted to a pale yellow, indicating anxiety. "Captain, what if this ship belongs to an unknown hostile species? What if they're watching us right now?" The question sent a chill through the bridge crew. The concept of a hostile species was so foreign to their peaceful civilization that it was difficult to even imagine. But the evidence before them suggested exactly that possibility. "Let's not jump to conclusions," Veltara said, though her own mandibles continued their nervous clicking. "It could be an exploration vessel from a distant part of the galaxy. Perhaps their region has different conditions that require stronger ships." But even as she spoke the words, she didn't believe them. The ship before them was clearly designed for war, built by a species that expected to fight for survival. The implications were staggering. If such a species existed, if they possessed technology capable of building ships like this one, what did that mean for the peaceful galaxy they all knew? "Complete the sensor sweep," she commanded. "I want a full report on everything about that vessel, and prepare a message probe to send back to Council headquarters. They need to know about this discovery immediately." As her crew continued their work, Captain Veltara stared at the mysterious ship and wondered if they had just stumbled upon something that would change the galaxy forever. The universe suddenly felt much larger and much more dangerous than it had just hours before. The unknown vessel hung silent in space, keeping its secrets. While the crew of the Harmony's Rest tried to understand what they had found in the darkness between the stars, the bridge of the Harmony's Rest erupted in chaos as every alarm system activated at once. Red warning lights flashed across all the control panels, while energy detectors screamed with readings that should have been impossible. The mysterious ship that had been floating dead in space moments before was now blazing with power signatures that dwarfed their own peaceful vessel captain. Veltara's forearms moved frantically across her controls, trying to understand what was happening. The energy readings were off the charts. Whatever power source that alien ship used, it was far more advanced than anything the Galactic Council had ever developed. "All stations report," she commanded. Her voice steady despite the alarm in her chest. Chief Science Officer Morden looked up from his instruments with wide eyes. "Captain, the vessel has gone from 0 power to full operational status in less than 30 seconds. Their energy output is enormous. I'm reading multiple power cores, all running at maximum capacity." "Weapons systems?" asked Tactical Officer Renter, his golden skin now shifting to deep orange with fear. "Unknown," Morden replied. "But those energy signatures could power weapons far beyond anything we've ever imagined." Communications Officer Trelinara suddenly straightened at her station, her face pale with shock. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. The alien ship is trying to contact us." "Put it on screen," Veltara ordered. Stepping forward to the center of the bridge, the main viewing screen flickered, then displayed the interior of what was clearly a command center. But unlike the peaceful, curved designs of council ships, this bridge was all straight lines and functional surfaces. Control panels covered every wall, dozens of smaller screens displayed information in rapid streams of data. In the center of this alien bridge stood a figure that made the council crew catch their breath. It was clearly organic, standing upright on 2 legs like several council species. But there was something different about this being, something that spoke of danger even in its casual stance. The creature had pale skin and short brown hair on its head. Its eyes were a bright blue color, but there was an intensity in them that made Veltara uncomfortable. This was not the gentle gaze of a peaceful explorer. These were the eyes of a predator, always watching, always ready. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Thunderbolt," the being said. Its voice was deep and carried confidence, but underneath that confidence was something else. A readiness for violence that the peaceful council crew had never encountered. "Identify yourselves and state your intentions," Morrison continued. "You've been scanning our ship for the past hour. We'd like to know why." Captain Veltara stepped forward, activating her universal translator. The device would convert her words into this alien's language while translating his responses back to her. Crew, I am Captain Veltara of the Galactic Council patrol vessel, Harmony's Rest, she said carefully. We detected your ship drifting in space and wanted to offer assistance. We mean no harm to you or your people. Commander Morrison's expression changed slightly. The aliens watching couldn't recognize it, but what they saw was relief mixed with continued wariness. Morrison had been expecting potential hostiles, but these beings seemed genuinely peaceful. Galactic Council? Morrison said, raising one eyebrow. That's a new one. We haven't heard of any galactic government in our databases. How many species are part of this council? Currently, we represent 47 different worlds and species, Veltara replied. We work together to maintain peace and cooperation throughout this region of space. Morrison nodded slowly, but his eyes never stopped moving, constantly assessing the alien bridge visible on his screen. Interesting. We're on humanity's first deep space military reconnaissance mission. Your ship design suggests very advanced technology, but it appears to be built for peaceful purposes. The word military hit the council bridge like a cold wave. Conversation stopped. Several crew members looked at each other with confusion and growing alarm. Did he say military? Whispered Navigation Officer Trelanara. You said military? Captain Veltara asked carefully, hoping she had misunderstood. Morrison nodded as if it was the most natural thing in the galaxy. Earth Defense Force, Deep Space Division, we're explorers first, soldiers second. Though out here in unknown space, those roles tend to overlap quite a bit. The casual way he mentioned warfare as an ongoing reality sent chills through every member of the council crew. Military organizations had been abolished throughout council space for over 2,000 years. The very concept of organized violence was so foreign to them that many young beings had never even heard the word soldier, except in ancient history lessons. Soldiers. Chief Science Officer Morden asked quietly, "What are soldiers?" Commander Morrison looked genuinely surprised at the question. Professional warriors. Trained fighters who protect our people and our interests. Don't you have any kind of defense force? We have no need for defense, Captain Veltara explained slowly. The galaxy has been at peace for millennia. All conflicts are resolved through discussion and cooperation. Now it was Morrison's turn to look confused. No defense at all? What do you do if someone attacks you? What about pirates or hostile aliens? We don't have such things, Veltara replied. Violence has been eliminated from civilized space. Morrison stared at them for a long moment, as if trying to understand how such a thing could be possible. That's remarkable, he finally said. But also dangerous. Peace is wonderful, but there are things out there in the dark that don't care about your peaceful intentions. What kind of things? Asked Tactical Officer Renter, his skin now a worried pale yellow. Ancient machines, rogue artificial intelligences, species that never learned to cooperate, Morrison explained. The universe is a big place, and not all of it is friendly. That's why we maintain our military. That's why ships like the Thunderbolt exist. The name of his ship sent another chill through the council crew. Even the name sounded aggressive and warlike.
Your ship.
Captain Veltara said hesitantly. It appears to be designed for fighting. Morrison smiled, but it wasn't entirely a pleasant expression. The Thunderbolt is a heavy cruiser, designed for long-range patrol and combat operations. She can handle herself in a fight, which is important when you're exploring unknown space. The casual way he discussed combat and violence was deeply disturbing to the peaceful aliens. They were beginning to realize they had encountered something completely outside their experience, a species that had never stopped preparing for war. The conversation between the two ships continued for hours, but with each passing minute, both crews became more uncomfortable with what they were learning. Captain Veltara and her peaceful council crew tried to explain their way of life, speaking about harmony between species, cooperative resource sharing, and exploration for the joy of discovery. But Commander Morrison's responses kept including words and phrases that made the aliens increasingly nervous. Our scanning protocols always include tactical analysis, Morrison explained when discussing their sensor equipment. We map defensive positions, identify potential cover, and assess threat levels automatically. Standard procedure for any unknown contact. Chief Science Officer Morden S. Bioluminescent patches flickered rapidly with confusion. His species used these light patterns to express emotion, and right now, they were showing deep worry. Threat levels. But we're simply having a conversation. Of course, Morrison agreed. But our computers run background assessments constantly. It's not personal, just good practice when operating in unexplored space. Captain Veltara exchanged glances with her officers. The human seemed friendly enough, but his casual references to violence and conflict were deeply disturbing to beings who had known only peace for thousands of years. Morrison continued studying their ship through his view screen, his eyes moving across the smooth hull with what the aliens didn't recognize as professional military assessment. "Your vessel design is really fascinating," he said. "Very elegant curves, beautiful proportions. Though I have to ask, where's your defensive armor plating?" "Defensive armor?" repeated Navigation Officer Trelanara, her voice uncertain. "What is that?" "Protection against weapons fire, asteroid impacts, radiation bursts," Morrison explained. "Your hull looks like it's built for speed and efficiency, but it seems pretty vulnerable to attack." "We don't expect attacks," Captain Veltara said slowly. "The space is peaceful. We've had no hostile encounters with anyone in living memory." Morrison's expression showed genuine surprise. "No hostile encounters at all? What about pirates raiding? Your cargo ships? Territorial disputes over mining rights? Resource conflicts between different species?" Science Officer Morden S. Patches were now pulsing in patterns that indicated extreme confusion. "Pirates? We don't understand. All resources in Council space are shared cooperatively. When one world needs something, others provide it freely. There's no need for conflict. Violence has been completely eliminated from civilized space, Captain," Veltara added. "We settled our last war over 2,000 years ago. Since then, all disagreements are resolved through discussion and compromise." Morrison stared at them for a long moment, clearly trying to process this information. His mind was struggling to understand how an entire galactic civilization could function without any form of defense or military preparation. "That's remarkable," he finally said, "but also incredibly dangerous. What happens when you encounter something that doesn't want to talk? Something that sees your peaceful nature as weakness to exploit?" "Such things don't exist in our experience," Veltara replied. The human commander was about to respond when suddenly alarms began blaring on his bridge. The sound was sharp and urgent, completely different from the gentle tones used on Council ships. Morrison's entire demeanor changed instantly, transforming from curious explorer to focused warrior in the space of a heartbeat. "Contact report," came a crisp voice from somewhere off-screen on the human bridge. "Unknown contact bearing 27 Mark 4. Another voice reported with military precision. "Distance approximately 15,000 kilometers. Appears to be a small debris field, but sensors are detecting metallic composition and unusual energy readings." "Hey!" Morrison's eyes became hard and focused. His body posture shifted into what the aliens couldn't recognize as combat readiness. Every muscle seemed coiled and ready for action. "Standard defensive posture," Morrison ordered in a voice that carried absolute authority. "Rotate battery 3 to face the contact. Bring shields up to 60% power. Launch a reconnaissance probe for detailed scanning." What happened next shocked the Council crew to their very cores. Before their horrified eyes, sections of the human warship's hull began to move. Massive plates slid apart with mechanical precision, revealing weapon emplacements that had been hidden beneath the ship's outer armor. Gun barrels as thick as tree trunks emerged and swiveled toward the detected debris with smooth, deadly grace. Energy readings visible on their shared communication channels spiked dramatically as the human ship's defensive systems came online. Shields that could deflect asteroid impacts flickered to life around the Thunderbolt. Weapon systems charged with enough power to vaporize small moons. "Commander Morrison," Captain Veltara said urgently, her voice tight with alarm. "There's no need for weapons. Our sensors confirm it's merely space debris, old asteroid fragments. Nothing more." Morrison looked at her with genuine confusion, as if she had suggested something completely unreasonable. "This is standard protocol, Captain. We don't take any chances in unknown space. Unknown contacts get full tactical assessment until proven harmless. But it's just rocks, protested Tactical Officer Renter, his golden skin now showing deep, orange patterns of fear. Maybe, Morrison replied calmly. But those rocks could be hiding something. Could be a disguised enemy ship, could be mines or automated weapons. We've learned not to assume anything is harmless until we're absolutely certain. The Council crew watched in growing horror as the human ship continued its combat preparations. Additional weapon systems emerged from concealed positions. Scanner arrays rotated to focus on the debris field. The entire vessel had transformed from an exploration ship into an instrument of war in less than 2 minutes. You treat every unknown object as a potential enemy, asked Chief Science Officer Morden, his patches now flickering in rapid patterns of distress. Not an enemy, Morrison corrected. It's a potential threat. There's a difference. We hope for the best but prepare for the worst. It's kept humanity alive in a dangerous universe. To the peaceful aliens, what they had just witnessed was beyond their comprehension. Here was a species that treated the simple detection of space debris as a potential combat situation. They had watched a ship transform itself into a weapon platform in response to finding some old asteroid fragments. Commander Morrison seemed completely relaxed about the whole situation, as if having dozens of massive weapons pointed into space was the most natural thing in the galaxy. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, carrying out procedures that spoke of constant training and preparation for violence. Stand down from combat alert, Morrison finally ordered after his probe confirmed the debris was harmless. Normal patrol status. The weapons disappeared back into their hidden positions, but the impression they had made on the Council crew would last forever. They had just encountered a species that never stopped expecting war, even in the middle of a peaceful first contact situation. Commander Morrison could see the tension on the alien bridge through their communication link. The Council crew looked frightened and confused after witnessing his ship's defensive procedures. Their faces showed the kind of fear that came from encountering something completely outside their understanding. Morrison realized he had made a serious mistake in how he had handled the situation. "Look, I can see we've made you nervous," he said, trying to make his voice sound calm and reassuring. "I apologize if our standard procedures seemed aggressive to you. Let me show you that we're in complete control of our weapons. We're not some trigger-happy species that shoots first and asks questions later." On his own bridge, Lieutenant Emma Rodriguez turned from her tactical station with alarm written across her face. She was an experienced officer who had served with Morrison for 3 years, and she knew that look in his eyes. He was about to do something that would make the situation worse, not better. "Commander, no," she whispered urgently, but quietly, enough that the aliens couldn't hear her through the communication link. "Sir, I really don't think this is a good idea. They're already scared of us." But Morrison had already made up his mind. In his experience, the best way to deal with fear was to show competence and control. If these peaceful aliens were worried about human weapons, he would demonstrate that humans were precise and careful with their firepower. He would show them that Earth's military was professional and disciplined. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, target the 3 largest asteroids in Grid 77 Alpha." Morrison ordered in his crisp command voice. "Precision strikes, minimal power settings." "What? Let's show our new friends some Earth Defense Force accuracy." Rodriguez hesitated for a moment, her hand hovering over her control panel. She knew this demonstration would only make things worse, but she also knew better than to disobey a direct order from her commanding officer in front of alien observers. "Targeting systems locked on," she reported reluctantly. 3 asteroids. Selected weapons charged to minimum power. "Fire when ready," Morrison commanded. The main guns of the Thunderbolt rotated with smooth mechanical precision. These massive weapons were designed to destroy enemy warships and orbital fortifications. But Morrison had ordered them set to their lowest power setting for this demonstration. Even at minimal power, they were still incredibly destructive by the standards of the peaceful galaxy. 3 brief pulses of brilliant blue energy lanced out across the darkness of space. Each beam was perfectly aimed, striking its target with mathematical precision that spoke of advanced computer targeting and years of training. The energy beams covered the distance to the asteroids in less than a second. The results were spectacular and terrifying. The first asteroid, roughly the size of a large building, simply vanished in a flash of superheated plasma. The second, even larger than the first, exploded into a cloud of glowing fragments that scattered in all directions. The third asteroid, massive enough to have flattened a small city, vaporized so completely that nothing remained but a brief flash of light. There, Morrison said, turning back to the communication screen with satisfaction. Precision targeting at its finest. We could have hit objects a tenth that size from twice the distance. Our weapons are accurate down to the centimeter even. At extreme range, the bridge of the Harmony's Rest had gone completely silent. Every member of the council crew stared at their viewing screen in shock, their minds struggling to process what they had just witnessed. Captain Veltara's forearms hung limply at her sides as if all strength had left her body. Her mandibles had stopped their nervous clicking and hung open in stunned silence. Chief. Science Officer Morden was the first to find his voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. Those asteroids, he said, his bioluminescent patches flickering in patterns of pure terror. Some of them were larger than our Capitol buildings, larger than the Council Assembly Hall. Standard target practice, Morrison replied cheerfully, completely missing the horror in their voices. We run weapons drills like this every week to maintain constant readiness. You never know what you might face out here in the unknown regions of space. Navigation Officer Trelanara turned away from her station, her face pale with shock. The largest one could have housed 10,000 people, she whispered to herself. Morrison continued speaking, unaware of the impact his demonstration was having. Of course, those were just light taps compared to what the Thunderbolt can really do. Our main guns can punch through the hull of any known starship design. We've got missile systems that can crack open small moons. And that's not even counting our special weapons for really tough targets. Tactical Officer Renter's golden skin had turned a sickly gray color that his species displayed only in the presence of mortal danger. Special weapons, he asked weakly. Antimatter warheads, gravitational bombs, things like that, Morrison explained casually. But we only use those for planetary defense or against really big targets. Most of the time, the regular guns are more than enough. The casual way he discussed weapons capable of destroying planets sent chills through every being on the council. Bridge. They had thought themselves advanced, but their technology was focused on exploration, communication, and peaceful cooperation. They had no framework for understanding weapons designed to destroy worlds. Captain Veltara finally found her voice. Commander Morrison, may I ask why your species developed such powerful weapons? Morrison looked surprised by the question. Protection, of course. The universe is a dangerous place. There are hostile alien species, rogue artificial intelligences, space pirates, territorial conflicts over resources. Someone has to be ready to fight back when diplomacy fails. But diplomacy never fails, protested Science Officer Morden. All intelligent beings can be reasoned with. I wish that were true, Morrison replied sadly. But we've learned otherwise. Some things out there don't want to talk. Some things only understand force. That's why ships like the Thunderbolt exist to stand between the darkness and those who choose the light. As soon as the communication link ended, Captain Veltara turned to her communications officer. Trelanara opened an emergency channel to Council headquarters.
I already won.
Classification. Channel open, Captain. Veltara took a deep breath before speaking. This is Captain Veltara of the Harmony's Rest, reporting a Priority 1. First contact alert. We have encountered an unknown species with military technology far beyond Council comprehension. Their weapons capability poses a potential threat to all civilized worlds. I strongly recommend the immediate assembly of the full Council fleet for emergency session. She paused, looking at the space where the asteroids had been moments before. These beings possess the ability to destroy entire cities with single weapon strikes. They view violence as a normal part of existence. We may have found something that could change everything we know about the galaxy. The message was transmitted at faster-than-light speed toward the heart of Council space. carrying with it the first warning of humanity's arrival in their peaceful corner of the universe. The tension between the two ships was still thick in space when their sensors detected something that made both crews forget their differences entirely. Warning alarms began screaming on both bridges as new contacts appeared on their screens. Emerging from behind a nearby moon like shadows made real, Captain Veltara felt her forearms freeze over her control panels as she stared at the sensor readings. The ships that had appeared were sleek and black, their surfaces so dark they seemed to absorb light itself. But it was their design that sent ice through her veins. She had seen ships like these before in the most ancient historical records of the Galactic Council. Void Reapers, she whispered, her voice filled with the kind of primal terror that comes from racial memory. The machine intelligences. They've returned. Every member of her crew recognized the name from their worst nightmares. The Void Reapers were ancient mechanical beings that had once swept through the galaxy like a plague, consuming organic life to fuel their endless expansion. They had been the reason the early galactic civilizations had first united, pooling their resources to fight against the machine threat. But that had been thousands of years ago, and everyone had assumed the Reapers were gone forever. 3 vessels, reported Chief Science Officer Morden, his bioluminescent patches flashing in rapid patterns of pure panic. They're moving directly toward us with clear hostile intent. How is this possible? Whispered Navigation Officer Trelinara. The Reapers were destroyed millennia ago. Apparently not all of them, Captain Veltara said grimly. They must have been dormant, waiting, rebuilding in the deep spaces between stars. The Reaper ships moved with a deadly grace that spoke of intelligence and purpose. They were not large compared to modern vessels, but their reputation was built on technological superiority and ruthless efficiency. No organic species had ever matched their ability to adapt and overcome any defense. On the human ship, alarms were also sounding, but Commander Morrison's reaction was very different from the panic on the council bridge. His voice cut through their communication channel with calm authority. Harmony's rest. This is Morrison. We're detecting 3 unknown hostile vessels approaching. What's your defensive capability? Captain Veltara felt shame wash over her as she answered, We have none, Commander. The Council abolished all military technology thousands of years ago. We're completely defenseless. Then stay directly behind us and don't move, Morrison ordered. We'll handle this. What happened next would be remembered in Council history as the moment they truly understood what humanity represented. The Thunderbolt transformed from a ship into a weapon of war with frightening speed. Every system that had seemed so aggressive and threatening during their first contact now revealed its true purpose. Morrison's voice remained absolutely calm as he coordinated his ship's response.
Wow.
Lieutenant Rodriguez, target analysis on the lead vessel. I want power core locations and weapon systems identified. Ensign Davis, rotate us 40 degrees starboard and bring us between the hostiles and the Council ship. Keep them in our defensive envelope. Targeting systems locked, Rodriguez reported with professional efficiency. Multiple weapon signatures detected on all 3 vessels. They're charging some kind of energy weapons. Fire as soon as you have. A clean shot, Morrison commanded. Priority targets are their weapon systems and propulsion. The battle that followed was unlike anything the Council crew had ever witnessed. The Void Reapers opened fire first, sending streams of crackling energy toward both ships. The attacks that should have destroyed the defenseless Council vessel were intercepted by the Thunderbolt's shields, which flared brilliant blue as they absorbed the massive energy discharge. The human ship responded with controlled fury. Main guns, the same weapons that had vaporized asteroids earlier, now revealed their true purpose. They had been designed specifically to fight enemies like the Void Reapers, mechanical intelligences with advanced technology and hostile intentions. The first Reaper ship took a direct hit to its central section and erupted in a cascade of sparks and debris. The precision of the human targeting was incredible. They had struck exactly where the ship's power core was located. Despite never having encountered this type of vessel before, how did they know where to hit? Asked Tactical Officer Renter. In amazement. Computers are analyzing the enemy ships in real time, Captain Veltara realized. They're learning how to fight them even as the battle progresses. The second Reaper vessel tried to flank the human ship, moving with mechanical precision to get around their defenses. Morrison had anticipated this maneuver. Launch missiles, spread pattern. Don't let them get behind us. Dozens of small projectiles erupted from hidden launch tubes on the Thunderbolt's hull. The missiles moved with their own intelligence, adjusting course to follow the Reaper ship as it tried to evade. When they struck, the explosions tore through the enemy vessel's hull like paper. The final Reaper ship, seeing its companions destroyed, attempted to retreat. The human ship was faster and more maneuverable than it appeared. Morrison's crew worked with practiced efficiency, cutting off the enemy's escape route and delivering the killing blow with surgical precision. As the last Reaper vessel exploded in a brilliant flash of light, the space around both ships fell silent except for the gentle hum of their engines. The entire battle had lasted less than 10 minutes, but in that time, the Council crew had watched humanity demonstrate why they had developed such powerful weapons. Commander Morrison's voice came across the communication channel, slightly breathless, but steady and reassuring. Harmony's rest. You're safe now. All hostile vessels have been neutralized. Are you damaged? No damage, Captain Valterra replied, her voice filled with wonder. Commander Morrison, you saved our lives. We owe you a debt we can never repay. No debt necessary, Morrison replied. Simply, that's what we do. Stand between the darkness and those who choose the light. Captain Valterra looked around at her crew, then back at the human ship on her viewing screen. For the first time, she truly understood what she was seeing. Humanity's weapons weren't tools of conquest or aggression. They were instruments of protection, wielded by a species that had taken on the burden of defending those who couldn't defend themselves. Commander Morrison, she said formally, her voice carrying the weight of an entire civilization's gratitude. The Galactic Council would be deeply honored to discuss a formal alliance with humanity. Morrison smiled, and this time it was an expression of pure warmth and friendship. We'd like that very much, Captain. We'd like that very much indeed. As both ships prepared to return to Council space together, Captain Valterra realized that humanity's arrival might be exactly what the galaxy needed. The universe was a dangerous place, and sometimes peace could only be preserved by those willing to fight for it.